Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December meeting of the Commission on Human Trafficking. We're going to have a call to order and take a roll call. Make sure we have a quorum today. I think we do, with the approval of the alternates. So this should be a great day today. My name is Charles Klug, and I'm this year's chairman of the Commission on Human Trafficking. Let's go to my left.
Commissioner Donna Cameron Cepeda, Hillsborough County Commissioner.
Jennifer Glaister, Redefining Refuge.
Sergeant Andrea Hughes, Tampa Police Department.
Beverly Mogilnicki, the Hotel Motel Association.
Myra Espinoza, nurse practitioner with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay.
Deborah Leskowski, community advocate.
Corporal Alyssa Sablon, Temple Terrace PD.
Jessica Couvertier, State Attorney's Office.
Claudette Graves, religious rep.
Lieutenant Justin Lee, Plant City Police Department.
Captain Chad Cave, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon, Santiago Parada, visit Tampa Bay.
Julianne Holt, Vice Chair of the Commission.
Thanks. Just like to introduce you in the audience as well. Ready? Hey, Alex. Okay.
John Hollingshead, Procurement Services Department.
Daria Dixon, Procurement Services Department.
Good.
Lane Conley, Created Women.
Dr. Shelley Wagers, University of South Florida. Kaylee Carter, University of South Florida.
Nicole Hubbard, Commission on the Status of Women, and I'll be speaking about the Bureau.
Chair, you have a quorum with 15 members present.
Excellent, thank you. Well, we have introductions as well, so glad everyone can attend today. And like I said, we've been trying to get a quorum for a while, and we've had it off and on. So the most important thing is we can have alternates now, fill in, because we have difficult schedules, and it's hard for everyone to make all these meetings. So appreciate everyone just pitching in here. Okay, we want to have a review of the meeting recap. I think we have minutes. We want a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. We have a motion to approve those.
Motion to
Second.
motion to approve.
Okay, and before we go for approval, any comments or questions or changes? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and then we'll go right into our guest presentation by USF Bright program funding updates. Thanks. Thank you. Yes.
Can we go ahead and get that PowerPoint ready, please? We are waiting on the PowerPoint.
They move the slides for me then?
Yeah, you'll say next slide, next slide, next slide.
Okay. Sorry for the delay.
Excuse me, could I just say too that we will have a PowerPoint too for our presentation?
Well, I'll make sure as far as I know, everyone's got.
I see, Dottie, you let us be the guinea pigs, right? No pressure. Do you want me to go?
If
Or
you want
give
to
it a
start,
minute?
I'll if you want to talk a little, I'll standing here.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for having us here today. Kaylee Carter is with me. She's the Bright project manager, program manager, and I'm the director of the Bright project. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. I know some of you are. We sent a longer version of the PowerPoint so you would have the background material, but I'm going to kind of fly through it. We are finishing up or have just finished up our pilot program, and I want to give a big thank you to Hillsborough County because Hillsborough County gave us generous grant funding that we used over the past year to build the pilot program of Bright. I'm happy to see all of you here today because as you went around and did your introductions, I'm in my head, I was like, okay, Kaylee, get that card and get that card. We got to get them in. We got to get them in. So hopefully with what we're showing you today, you'll get excited about what we've been able to build and what's coming your way. You all do have the PowerPoint, so you have an idea. But in essence, Bright emerged from a needs assessment we started doing in the Trafficking in Persons Lab in 2020. That needs assessment covered the initial needs assessment anyway, about 100 different interviews that we conducted in about 4 months from multiple stakeholders in the anti-trafficking movement throughout the state of Florida, but heavily in our region. And the goal was Dr. Joan Reed, who's the director of the TIP Lab, wanted to find a project or projects that we could bring to the community from the TIP Lab so our research could have real world impact. And both of us had been removed from practitioner work for quite a while. So we're like, we need to know the landscape. So we talked to individuals on the front lines, direct practice, from nonprofits and human trafficking orgs, all the way up to people who were the CEOs across law enforcement. We even came into some different focus group forum meetings. That's how we met Dottie and No Dottie. We had a foundation advisory board we used from different leaders in that community to advise us on the build of Bright. So everything Bright has that you see that we constantly tweak comes from the voices from the community. In a nutshell, what it is, it's a digital platform that contains a vetted network of services specific for human trafficking victims and survivors that is accessed by individuals who come in contact. So for example, if you're a law enforcement officer or a victim advocate and you have a survivor and you need to find resources, it's a site that you can go to. It functions similar to, it's got a filtering system. So I know we have 211. I know we have the different platforms, but if you've ever been on them, it takes forever, right? You're like kind of going, I need this, I need this. Bright's developed specifically from the feedback from the community of exactly which filters are most needed specific to survivors of human trafficking. We have a crisis link that takes you right to so you can connect with case managers, or if you're a case manager and you need to find services your org doesn't provide, it's in there. So embedded in the PowerPoint, if they send it to you digitally, is a bit of a demo where you can see. So the PowerPoint goes through for you the SWOT analysis and the different phases of how we used Hillsborough's money to begin to develop this. We say we research and pivot. Everything is evidence-based. So when we first started out, we found a partner that had built something similar, and we used that as our initial framework. And we had the initial launch. And with the initial launch, we had about 10 different partners that we worked with that would have synergy of how they might make so we could see what worked and what didn't. And quite honestly, following that other model, it didn't work. Nobody was using it. That's our main weakness. We're like, why is nobody using the very thing they said they wanted us to build? So we did what we do best. We're researchers. We decided to go back to the field, show it to people, talk to people and go, why aren't you using it? And what we found were all the kinks and the flow and the exact information and how to categorize it. So if you think about any app you have on your phone, think for a minute. Do you have an app on your phone you love? It's so easy to use. You love it. And then you have an app on your phone that you hate it. It's clunky, but it's the only people who offer it. So okay, we went from that to you love is what we're trying to do. It's like an app. So when you use any kind of app or digital product, you have a user experience of that. And it needs to be able to do certain flows and functions for you to want to use that product over somebody else's product. So our goal has been, what should that look like? How does that work specific for you and specific for this population, while simultaneously gathering important pieces of data that will allow us in the lab to provide you the reports you said you also wanted in that needs assessment. Gaps in services. Where are the biggest gaps in services? How about following how victims get moved around to some degree? I found the victim here. I entered my location into the system. The victim told me they lived here. The victim told me they need to go here. All that's gathered in the system. How and when? How does that change by demographic makeup, right? Because in order to find services, the services a victim can meet go to demographic makeup, right? Some will serve females. Some will only serve males. Some only serve adults. Some won't serve an individual if they have a mental health issue or a disability of some kind. So those key filters that help you all find the services faster are the same filters we use to get the picture of where are services for who and where are the gaps. So some of the key learning things we learned from getting it built, we have our prototype. We still have pieces we need. So the pilot has ended. And I'm going to go to Kaylee because without the PowerPoint and that in front of me, as the program manager, she has a nose off the top of her head from the beginning, which we really started bringing people in around February or March of this year to the end of November, how many partner programs we got into the system representing how many counties. So Kaylee, I'm asking you for your brain and your numbers. Yep.
So since the initial launch, we have 31 users of the system from 15 different organizations. Out of the 12 different service categories, which you should be able to see in your documents in front of you, we have covered 9 of those different service categories. Additionally, we are in about 15 or so different counties just because many of the organizations do serve multiple counties. And we're currently in the process of onboarding 22 more organizations into the system.
And from the use that we've had in the system,
Yes.
on average, how long is it taking for someone to locate the service and make the connection?
It is taking 33 hours or less. That's the max amount of time.
The max amount,
Yes.
right? How fast has it been done for some?
I believe it has been done in about 6 hours, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep. So it's a product that everybody said they wanted. Our goal with this moving forward, so we're still working on increasing usage. So we went back and did more research because that's what we do. And what we found out was this. The model we had started to replicate to have a place to start looked at synergy. They looked at people who worked in the human trafficking arena specifically and how they made referrals back and forth to each other. I'm going to say something most of you are probably aware of. As much as we say we all collaborate, there's a lot of territorialism among the nonprofits because of lack of funding. They don't always refer back and forth to each other. The other thing we learned is this, though. It's a referral system to find their services. So who did we not put in initially we need? Law enforcement. Right? Emergency rooms. So we were looking at why aren't they making a referral? Well, it's because the people that we put in have the majority of services, so they don't need to refer. The usage went up when their hotline operators came in. So what we're looking for now in expansion are a couple of things. One, money. Of course, we have to find money. A goal of that money, though, is to offer it free. One of our goals is to keep offering it free, especially for nonprofits that don't have a lot of money, so we get the usage. Why is usage so important? We cannot have good data to answer the questions you have about where to funnel money, about where services are needed without good data. The good data comes from the usage, if that makes sense. I don't even know where I am at this point, Kaylee. You just have to flip the slides, right? As researchers, we have to know the error in the data. Right. And we can use to know that error in the data, we can account for it. So if we have someone that makes a call one day, but then uses our system the next day, but we never know those calls are happening or how many, and then we give you reports from this data, it's not good data, right? So we went back and asked, why aren't you using it? Number one reasons, we forget. We are so used to our current culture. We just immediately go texting. Number two, we like to talk to each other. It gives us a minute to vent. It gives us a minute to have camaraderie. So we need to build these things into the infrastructure so they can still happen, along with ways you get push notifications to be reminded. That's more tech. That is not possible in our current platform. So moving forward, we are currently working on and signing a new contract with a tech org that will fully build it with all these features we need, completely in-house, and make real-time changes with us as we learn from the field to keep improving it at USF. So that way it stays housed, it stays safe, it stays secure, and the data's immediately there for us to analyze on a regular basis. That creates a lot of more upfront cost for us than the old model, which built off of licenses. But what it allows us to do is grow without those costs not increasing, right? Because it's just a regular storage cost once it's built. So a high ticket coming up for a low ticket and keeping it free for everybody to use moving forward, right? So in a nutshell, that's Bright and what it's doing. I see Dottie's been an advisor for us this whole time over the last several years. You can see where we're trying to move. Why statewide? Victims aren't in one place. So we started out because Hillsborough County was so generous to give us the money with this region. And what we learned from most of the practitioners in this region is I need to refer out of the region. I need to refer across the country. So we're looking for national partners right now that are doing things similar that we can connect with so that the systems can talk. We're also working on the back-end technology, which is how do you keep it real time? Currently, in its current state, a nonprofit org has to go in. Let's say you offer housing, someone left the bed, so now you have a new one available. They have to actually go in and put that in the system. We want to start doing the research, build the trust so that our network engineer can connect. So if you have a computer system, it's like real time in the system that way. The system tracks in real time. If you send the referral and they accept it, it'll bring the bed down, just as an example, but it doesn't put the bed up. Does that make sense to everybody? That's a problem. So we're working on how to fix that problem in the new system. So where we're at right now is we're working with our new partner to get the new build as fast as possible. The minimal viable product will be delivered to us early spring. While we're doing that, Kaylee's still meeting with people. Remember, I said vetted. The vetting process is extensive. It's a key thing everybody wanted. That way we know it's a safe service. And we have to recertify every year to be in there. And we have a badge system that we use so people can see that readily when they go in and look. And then the next thing is we're looking for our users. Now that we have stuff, we need more research. We need to start literally now. The sooner the better, talking to law enforcement and others who have encountered victims and need to make referrals so that we can incorporate things that are your concerns that might not be there because we primarily worked with individuals in human trafficking orgs to start. And the sooner we learn that we can tell our tech partner while they're in the middle of the new build, the cheaper it is because they don't have to make as many changes, right? Keep going back and forth once they do that. So that's where we're moving. That's where we're going. Did I leave anything out, Kaylee? Okay. Questions? They're all just staring at me. Concerns? Yes, we're the new partner. We're going to make it a website, and they said they can make it an app for us ultimately because everybody's asking for an app, something easy on their phone. Mm-hmm.
I have a question real quick. Sergeant Hughes. How do you foresee a connection between the program and law enforcement, and what information would you want us to relay to you?
So there's a demo in the PowerPoint you can look at. We didn't want to take too much time by showing it, but basically what happens is law enforcement, what you would need to convey to us wouldn't be any different than anybody else. You have someone in front of you and it's got a screener question that helps us identify if they're highly likely or less likely to truly be a human trafficking victim because our providers wanted that, right? They didn't say they're not going to serve them, but they might have different grant pools. So if they're not a human trafficking victim, they want to pull from a different grant pool. Then you put in by category what you want to find and type of service. Then it asks for basic information that is kind of demographic about the person you're in front of. Sex or labor traffic, male or female. This is for adults right now. Kids are a whole other ballgame, okay? So this is for adults. Their kind of age range. Many of them allow you to skip if it's not safe for them. So whether, so for example, if it's labor trafficking and they're an illegal immigrant, you might not want to answer certain things. things potentially, right? It's going to ask for your information so we know who's using the system. And then when it comes to the victim information, the only personal identifiers we ask for are the first 2 letters of their first name, the first 2 letters of the last name, and the last 2 digits of their birth year for you to send the referral. And the reason for that is so that if we get repetitive people in the system, it allows us to line up so we know that this, and that's it. So one of the things we want to work with law enforcement on is we know you have some different policies and regulations, is does it currently meet what you would need? Or if not, what do we need to do security-wise with how the data is transmitted for you to be able to use it? So it's just that. So when you send it, it'll connect you to the org, and from there you can pick up communications or texting with the org. So if there's sensitive information you don't want to put beyond just a few things, you can do that with the org outside of the system. But we would love to talk with you to find out if it meets your needs or not. Yeah. The other thing we're learning about law enforcement is doesn't necessarily have to be in every patrol officer's hand per se, because oftentimes most agencies we're learning have a protocol if they come across somebody who's a potential human trafficking victim and they connect them to a specialty unit. And we're learning that's pretty much where the hands we have to get it into those hands. And that's who would be sitting with the victim and trying to connect them to a case manager and that type of thing. And we have an agency in Miami that's willing to pilot with us on the new platform how this would work and roll, but we're always looking for others too. We like to include as many people as we can in that research.
Oh, it was an unfunded mandate that USF, it was appointed to be the statewide collection entity for human trafficking. So if we could get all the information all in one place, we would have a much better picture of what's really going on in our state with human trafficking. So it was money well spent through this commission. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you, Dottie. And you reminded me, another key piece where we do collect some additional law enforcement kind of data, but it's not mandated, but it's there. So Dr. Reed houses or manages our unified database project as the director of the lab, which was part of the mandate. I know she's already talking to FDLE and others. So part of our goal with Bright is it gives us a totally different picture, right? So we have some additional questions in there. If people are safe and comfortable to answer them, our goal is to connect this database with all of that. It will allow us to see which types of victims and survivors are coming in contact with formal systems and victim services or only victim services. And ultimately in the lab, we're going to do a victim survey, which allows us to get at the dark figure crime, which is who's out there that's not coming in contact with either. So it allows us to get that big picture and start to see that overlap. But more importantly, through all of this, the other key thing in the needs assessment everybody said was this term, zip code level data, which I figured out was county level to city level. All the systems can do that. We can pull reports out of the system and go, this is what came from Hillsborough County. This many programs receive people from outside of Hillsborough County into your victim services. These are the gaps in where they are for victim services in Hills. We can do that by county with the usage in the system. We got to build the system. We got to get the usage. So, Kaylee, I didn't leave anything out. Anything else? Okay. Any other questions? You keep looking like you want to ask a question. Inquisitive.
Yeah, I do have a question. And you're looking at partnering across the state or outside the state, and what type of entities you're looking at partnering with?
Well, right now within the state, we have what we call our partners, which are individuals like Dottie and her org, Tomas Lars and his org and others. But we're working to build the whole network ourselves within the state. So we kind of call every program that comes in our partners. But for our manpower, we can't vet outside the state, right? So an example of one of the partners we're talking to right now outside the state is NTSA, which are the ones who've brought about the certification for housing specifically. They have something similar they've been working on, but they work nationally, and they're starting to build kind of a national network connection. So that would be an example of one of the partners. Out of Arizona State University, there's a researcher in social work there that has had for years a human trafficking clinic, and they have multiple programs. That's another person we're looking at partnering because their programs are more service oriented versus research oriented. So they have a hotline, they have housing and other things. So that becomes a place. For the unified database, Dr. Reed is partnering with Allies Against Slavery out of Texas. That's another forerunner. There's another organization that is a task force in Tennessee that we might be talking to. Idea being, if they've vetted and have networks of services, can they come onto our platform? So then that way, if people need to find safe places out of the state, right, they can connect to some resources outside of the state through the platform. But we also would get all that national data then when they use their services to find us, which is a goal too.
Good. Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Hey, we have a couple of subcommittee reports, and they'll be brief because we didn't have a quorum. So we had two subcommittees. One is the Legislative and Judicial Subcommittee. And you should have a copy of this short summary of bills that are posted. Pretty much we just summarized and discussed some of those bills that will be presented this legislative session. Some are state and some are federal bills. Separately, the steering committee met, and we didn't have quorum for that committee either, but we did talk about a number of items. And one was the procurement process, which we'll hear more about today in just a few minutes. So Director Scott Stromer generally described the Hillsborough County procurement process about procurements between 5,000 and 50,000 and over 50,000, et cetera, piggybacking and a number of different options for us. But really the takeaway from that is that the process of procurement, and it's going to take probably about at least 60 days to go through a procurement process. So we're looking at, we do have some funding thanks to Commissioner Cepeda that we have about $300,000 of unallocated funds, as well as some additional recurring funds. So we're looking at how can we utilize those funds and how can we best procure that. And so having said that, maybe we can go ahead and do a presentation on our procurement process. And this is Mr. Hollinshead. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name's John Hollingshead. I work in the Procurement Services Department on the 25th floor. So I thank you for the opportunity to provide a presentation. How do I get the paper to the screening booth? Okay, I'm sorry. The first slide isn't page 1, but it is. But starting on page number 2 at the bottom right-hand corner, it's a draft. It's an RFP document for everybody to look at. To, you know, what I would need would be the subject matter experts to just provide comments. Lisa, was this provided in a Word document per se? Oh, okay, but okay, it wasn't sent out electronically. Okay. Okay. So basically, starting on page number 2 through page number 5. It's just the standard RFP. We're going to try to give an introduction. We're trying to give a project background, whatever minimum qualifications of a company is required. And then 1.4 is the heart of the matter, is the scope of work. What do we want this firm to do or not do, or everything else? Next slide. On the special terms and conditions on page number 3, it talks about the evaluation process. Very flexible. We can do whatever it is that that committee would want to do. We can have them submit proposals. We can have a follow-up interview or oral presentation to have them stand in front of the committee and talk about how they're going to do the job or the scope of work that we define for them. And then starting at the bottom of page number 3, starting on top 4, this is how we're going to evaluate them. We're going to rank the firms with some certain criteria based on what's most important to the committee. How they're going to do the job would be in a kind of technical approach. The proposer's qualifications, who's doing the work, and then their experience or past references that they've done the work before, not just this is their first time doing it. And then cost is the lower of the percentage. I think on this thing says 20%. It could go higher, it could go lower based on the committee's discretion on what they want to do, what's important. But again, I think on the last meeting, there was a funding $300,000. We don't have an unlimited budget, so it's important of what we can get for the scope of work for the amount of money that we have. So it is a factor, but and then starting in section 2.2, it talks about the submission requirements. What do we want these proposers or these firms that do this type of work to submit to us, so whoever's evaluating the proposals to score them can see the right information that we're wanting to see? Past experience, past references, who's doing the work or who's going to be performing the work, where they're going to be doing the work, television, signs, whatever the case may be. And then I think after, if you go to the next slide, please. Starting in section 2.3, it gets into our normal, that we call it the boilerplate or standard terms and conditions that are with every BOCC procurement. It's not gripping, but it has indemnification, insurance requirements, and things like that. That's really, the attorneys and everybody have pre-approved. So other than that, pages 2 through 5 is the heart of the matter. We're always willing to sit down and whoever the subject matter expert could be, would be, and just try to finalize that so we can move forward. Director Stromer talked about the procurement process taking about 60 days, 3 or 4 weeks for the proposals to come in because the proposers need time to fill them out. Based on the number of proposals we get, it's going to take 3 weeks or so to evaluate them, score them. And then I'm saying 3 or 4 weeks to bring it back to the board for, hey, this is the recommendation of who the highest ranked firm is, or to provide an oral presentation. So 60 days, it could be a little bit more based on whatever process you kind of want to go through. So that's basically in a nutshell. If there's any other questions.
Just go back to our steering committee meeting, is some of the things we also talked about was that we have a number of positions that are already funded. We don't have to worry about that. So this month, maybe you can just summarize the money we do have available for a procurement process. And also with the understanding that we want to try to gear this towards maybe marketing awareness of human trafficking. That's one of the things we talked about as well, is that what does this group want to undertake? What are we trying to accomplish? And the main thing is this awareness campaign, much like we had during the Super Bowl. It's making people aware of the human trafficking issues. If you see something, say something, et cetera. So having said that, can you tell us how much money I think we have available potentially for a campaign like this?
Sure, $567,000.
Okay. And that's
267 of that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
go ahead.
267,000 of that is currently slated for recurring funds, but there has been talk, as Commissioner Cameron Cepeda is aware, that they are looking to eliminate recurring funding categories. So we have 567,000 in 2024. 2025, I don't know if that 267 will roll over again and be available. So I would hesitate on a multi-year contract because you don't know if in 2025 that funding will be available. All we have for certain is the 567 for 2024.
Okay, so with that, having summarized that, maybe we're looking at a 1-year contract at this point. And does that money expire a certain time? Do we have to have this done by certain
Well,
date?
our year is a fiscal year. So the last day of the year is the end of September. That being said, procurement and management and budget likes to have all the invoices in and done by August, give or take.
That would be correct. So that way they can make the payments and the checks can go out prior to the end of the fiscal period. However, if, and I'm just throwing numbers out here, if you wanted to go down $250,000 and have the work spread out over, every quarter, they're doing something every quarter, whatever's remaining in that accounting string, if it was the board's discretion to approve that money, whatever's left over to the next fiscal period, that also happens too. So, it doesn't have to be necessarily a one-year contract per se. It's just that money has to be approved to cross the next fiscal period. That's all.
So we just have to commit the funds by September 30th. Okay. So we could actually have a 3-year contract for $300,000 and the funds are committed by September. We're okay. That money's not going to go away.
I'm not a budget guy. I'm not a budget guy, but I think they have to be paid though, almost. I understand that what you're saying about allocated, but
right.
That approval has to be done in each fiscal period.
Okay. So just looking at the parameters we have to work with here as far as how long the contract can be. And then of course we have issues about the criteria, what we're looking for, what we like to try to accomplish. And normally that's done by staff. And I think we only have, this not they all need to help us, but is this something, and typically I think with reason why these are subject to sunshine is boards approve these, and a lot of times board members get involved in that process to determine what criteria would be. If that happens, of course, all those meetings are subject to sunshine, just like your procurement meetings would be subject to sunshine as well. Just going along those that issue from a current standpoint, when you do have these evaluation meetings, or could you discuss the sunshine implications of those as well before we get into that?
So when the proposal is distributed to the evaluation committee members, they have to sign a conflict of interest, financial and all that other stuff. So once we get that cleared, then any meeting that the evaluation committee is going to come back and make a decision, sunshine. We normally put it up on the web. It's recorded. People on the outside can't participate. They're just there as a fly on the wall per se. And then once they agree on the scores and stuff like that, then we just put the scores up, and then that's the chance for people to object to, you rank me too low or too high and stuff like that. So it's normal. We do this all the time. So
normally in this situation, we would have a committee we would appoint, could be the steering committee or someone, and they would actually be the parties who are doing the evaluation. And they would make a recommendation, take that back to our board for approval.
Yes, sir.
Now, separately, we could do like a piggyback, I imagine, as well. If there's another entity that's competitively bid a contract, we call that piggyback on top of that contract.
Yes, sir. That's certainly an option that we could do, and we do that in the past. We have done that and stuff like that.
Would that avoid the need to have an evaluation committee, et cetera?
It would. It would avoid the whole process per se, or it would just almost streamline the process to say, here's an entity that has done what we want them to do. You just run into the balance of, are we getting exactly what we want? So if we were to do something inside the document that you have, we list all the Hillsborough County entities, the Hillsborough County Governmental Purchasing Council. If they wanted to piggyback all contract, they could.
So I just want to throw that out there. A couple of options we have. We can go through a formal procurement process, which is going to take some time. It's going to involve some sunshine issues, et cetera. Or there's a quicker way to do it. Would be a piggyback on an existing contract. And I think we may have one. I think with Visit Tampa Bay, I think there was a firm we used back in 2 years ago or so. And that's an option. If I remember, Commissioner Santiago wants to speak on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. Would Visit Tampa Bay as a not-for-profit under contract with Hillsborough County doing marketing be a contract that could be piggybacked on is my question, because we have subcontractors that help us do what we do for the county. So my question is that a contract that you could piggyback on since we're under contract with Hillsborough County?
It would be my understanding that the Visit Tampa Bay is not a government agency, which would prohibit us However, it could be something that I just don't want to say no at this meeting and not consider, but it would be my understanding that it's not a government agency, therefore we couldn't. However, we could, if you could get the document, Lisa could provide me the document, we could route it for that final approval, but.
Okay. Any other questions about the procurement process? Like I said, what we're trying to do is we have the funding. We're trying to accomplish some goals, and one of those is, of course, the basically the marketing and promotion of what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's an entity that we're looking at contracting with, and as far as getting that going, we have the funds available. Looks like for at least a year, and this is the kind of parameters we're working with. Glad to answer any questions or receive any questions or comments about that process.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may. On page 8 in 2.5 contract period for term contract, it states that it'd be a 1-year period. So in light of the previous question about having the contract extend over a multi-year contract, could we amend this, or could the commission amend this after it has gone out for bid consideration?
A contract can be modified based on approval of the awarding authority, and it also could be changed by virtue of an addendum that would replace this prior to the proposals coming in. So it could be done either way.
And I just had one other point of clarification. So when, in a previous life, when we had RFPs reviewed by a committee, it was a third-party committee. And then they brought, then the results of their ranking came back to the board.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be the steering committee of the Commission on Human Trafficking that would be ranking these proposals. It would be a third party or a third entity.
It could be the people on the outside of the inner tables here. It could be, you could pick 5 of these people here.
Well, they're alternates.
Okay, I'm sorry then. I don't know who they are, but yeah, something like that. It could be 5 people or 3 people that bring something back to the committee and provide a presentation.
But not any of the people in this room.
They could if it's the board's, but they would just have to abstain, that's all.
Okay, so that would be the stipulation. If they participated in the ranking of the proposals, they would then not be able to participate in voting on the proposals that they were a party to ranking.
That would be my understanding, yes.
And to take that a step further, they, with possibly the Visit Tampa Bay, because we have to check in on that relationship, because like USF, the county has standing contracts with USF where things can be approved up to a certain amount under that contract because they're already bound to work with the county as a whole.
Okay.
And that may be also the case for Visit Tampa Bay. I'm not sure. That's a little bit more granular. But the parties around, are in this room, just for an easy way to say it. The parties in this room would not be able to directly contract with the county as a conflict of interest because they were participating in the development of the scope of work.
I don't want to sit up here as an island and say, no, they can't participate. However, it's something that we're going to have to look into because each individual is going to have their own unique circumstance, whatever that might be. However, the Board of County Commissioners will approve different types of RFPs in the past, and just approving something does not necessarily restrict them from participating. It's just we have to just look into those conflicts to make the decision individually, not just as a whole. So without knowing that, I don't want to stand up here to say, no, they can't participate, because then all that will come with that. But I just, we want to be as flexible and follow the whatever processes we have, but they're going to have to sign a conflict of interest form anyway if they're on the evaluation committee too. So,
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions. One on timing. I think we probably need to make a decision on which pathway we're going to take, one way or the other, because we're already almost through the first quarter of the fiscal, being in December. And if we go the procurement route, it's going to add 60 to 90 more days. So when these campaigns launch, and the timing is, I think, of in essence here. That's the first question. So I think we need to decide one way or the other. And then the second point is, as a not-for-profit service provider to the county, I just want to make it clear for the record, we did not make any money off of doing this project during the Super Bowl. It was complete flow through our organization to the street to do the marketing and the service. So Business Campaign made no money. There was no admin fee, no cost for personnel. It was a complete flow through to an agency to get the job done. And that was the way we wanted to do it. So not that it matters one way or the other, but I think that for the record, we need to point that out, that it was clear flow through us to the agency to do the work. And that's the way it would work if we were to do it again.
And I recall you also mentioned that the steering committee, you've never taken an administrative fee for doing that, for processing it. So the key there is that a contract we could continue to piggyback on, or maybe that same contractor has a contract with another governmental entity that's part of the purchasing council.
Sure.
Is that it? Okay.
Sure. Yep. The two things I'd just like to say is that this is a very important project for the county, and we're committed to do whatever it is that the board, at our discretion, of whatever we can do. And the second thing is we'll try to expedite it as soon as possible and make it as flexible to the outcomes that you want. So that's our position right away. So
if we were to, there have two choices, looks like right now. We could piggyback. There might be a third choice or a fourth choice, but we could piggyback on an existing contract, which case it'd be very quickly. We can have that done pretty soon. It's a matter of just getting the contract signed, make sure it fits all the criteria, and et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Separately, if we do it through a procurement process, an RFP, we have to come up with some evaluation criteria and things we're going to rank these proposals on. What kind of information we want these proposals, that's going to take some time. In addition to the process itself, these are the process of advertising and receiving proposals, reviewing proposals, determine if you want oral presentations. That could be 60 to 90 days, right?
Yes, sir. That's exactly.
Before that, we have to have a criteria on that.
Yes, and you have a draft in front of you that we just try to, as far as a conversation piece, for people that make edits or any comments or whatever they would want. So
that was going to be my question, Mr. Chair, is if everyone has had a chance to review what was sent to them in their packets and look at the language. As Commissioner Corrado pointed out, we are well into the first quarter of the fiscal, and if we could approve, or if the commission, I keep saying we, if the commission can approve what was presented in their packets and what Mr. Hollings had just reviewed, then we can pull the trigger, so to speak, with procurement to get started. Once that vote takes place here, there is an opportunity to have further input and conversations with procurement to adjust language or make any changes before they formally put the bid out and the notice on the website. The commission will, if granted that the calendar gets approved today, the next meeting of the full commission would be on January 25th. So you'd have roughly a month, give or take, because there's holidays in between, to revisit any of this conversation and come back for another vote on the 25th.
With the changes that anybody had made. Okay. But it goes back to the time thing that we're talking about. What are we going to do? But if I had a document, we could advertise it tomorrow.
Right, because January is the start of the second quarter of the fiscal.
And we got the holidays and everything in there, people taking off. It's like, got to consider it. So
So at this point, you'd be looking for a motion for approval for the request for a proposal that's been provided to us. That's one motion. And the second motion would be to piggyback as opposed to the long-term process.
that would be, yes,
That's what
that,
we're discussing.
yes, ma'am. That would be something that we would have, that the commission would have to decide which
I
direction.
think we go on two separate courses. We'd approve the criteria and the RFP process, and then separately, we'll be looking at if there was a piggyback contract. There's a contract we can piggyback. Like, for instance, with the Visit Tampa Bay, maybe it doesn't qualify, you know.
I'm prepared to make both of those motions at this time.
Right.
You want me to do them one at a time?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, I would move then that we approve today the criteria, scope of work, and documentation that's been provided to us for a request for proposals for the anti-human trafficking campaign awareness program.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against?
Second by
Dottie.
Thank you.
Okay,
And that I would then move that we pursue the more expedited process of piggybacking on a contract. And I would be interested in looking at if we couldn't use Visit Tampa Bay, since they're so familiar with it and they have the people that we used previously. So I would try to include that in this motion, that I would prefer for that to be looked at carefully. And if we can go that path, to go that path.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would move that.
I'll second that motion as well.
okay, all in favor? Aye. Against? But motion's passed.
Mr. Chairman, I would really, really appreciate if procurement and legal really looked at it to make sure that if there's an opportunity for us to do it, it's completely vetted. There are no conflicts. There are no issues. I would really appreciate that.
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, so just for the minutes purposes, Ms. Monteleone, Gina Justice, who had indicated that she could be here for the Chief Judge, Chris Sabella, unfortunately is on crutches and could not hobble over here where she is.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay,
And so if the minutes could so reflect, and I can
I know
vouch
about that.
for her because I was in a meeting with her dropping the.
Hello, Ms. Justice. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, she saw me bobble a crutch and it fell on somebody. So I can't be trusted to go all the way to County Center at this juncture.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate you joining online. And for the record, all the participants that are with us online, even though a majority of them are staff, I can see from HTV and our IIO divisions, will be noted in the minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
And there is also someone from the Junior League, Holly, and I'm sorry, her last name escapes me at the moment, but Holly will be noted as being present as well as a visitor.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to move on to the Commission on Status of Women Mural Project. We have a presentation as well. Do you have a PowerPoint for this? Okay, good, thanks. Great, thank you.
Hey, Dr. Wagers, you were our guinea pig.
I could make a joke about the researcher being the guinea pig, but
Yeah.
I want to introduce my very good friend and Commission on the Status of Women colleague, and then also Ms. Webster is with the Commission on the Status of Women. We want to talk about this mural project that through the help, the Junior League spearheaded it several years ago, getting this beautiful mural painted. I don't want to say too much because I want to turn it over to Nicole, but the mural was painted in a very wonderful strategic location. And then the new owner of the building came along and decided they didn't want that mural there. So they painted over this mural. So now through the Commission on the Status of Women, we're trying hard to get this mural a mural put back up, and it was a place where survivors would gather and they felt heard and seen by the community. Nicole Hubbard spearheaded that project. What was it? 2017. And she and I think Ms. Webster also sit on a subcommittee, the Human Trafficking Subcommittee of the Commission on the Status of Women. So I am going to turn it over to Nicole so she can tell you the whole history and then the details of what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commission, and of course, Dottie, for having me this afternoon. So I'm going to go back to 2016, 2017. I was president of the Junior League at the time. The Junior League does exactly what of providing awareness around human trafficking. That is it. We don't work with survivors, whatnot. We're merely a place to provide awareness. So this became kind of a pet project of mine to figure out a place that we could really, there is no mural for anti-human trafficking anywhere, not in St. Pete, not in Tampa. So where could we find a place that was strategic that could really put the message out there? And we were fortunate, we pulled a task force together that was quite really amazing. And I mean, I cried when I got the news that this was painted over. I know Dottie, several of us did, because it just took so much effort and it was a true collaborative project. But Rob and I with the city of Tampa, Mike Victor with the TPD, obviously mayor, Natasha Nascimento, who's founder of Redefining Refuge. We had Connie Rose as a survivor, of course, Dottie. Several of us sitting around the table kind of thinking, and then of course the artist, which is Leon Bador, he's with Test One. So he does a lot of big projects like, you know, the museum, Glazer's Children's Museum, that's his work. And it just was really, we really took it back to the survivors to figure out like, what type of message do you really think the community needs to hear, and what does this need to look like? And that's how this I Am Not For Sale, I Am Priceless came about. It was located on the corner of Cass and Morgan, so strategically across from the Greyhound bus station, which is great because, oh, sorry, so next slide. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Strategically across from the bus station, Cass and Morgan. And I mean, it's a big building. It was huge. In fact, when we did reveal this, we put a couple of buses in front of it. A lot of elected officials from Tallahassee came down, of course, the mayor, there was all sorts of media. And we did that whole like, move that bus. And then the bus moved, and that's how we revealed the mural. It was really special. There were a lot of survivors out there. Anyway, the new owners, in fact, the owner of this building was so gracious, he paid to have it prepped. So we didn't even have to pay for that portion. The Junior League of Tampa funded the mural and all the costs that went around that at that time. But the new owners didn't want it and didn't ask questions, and there it went. So we have been, since then, honestly, been looking for a place. Mike Victor still really is involved in wanting this to happen. In fact, he was texting me prior to coming into this meeting, and Robin too, but we just can't, we don't know where we can do this. That's, if it's privately owned, stuff like this can happen. So what with the city, ports of entry, airport, port, bus stations, even parks are a great idea. We did look into Rolette Park, so 22nd and Rolette Drive, but CSX owns that. It's the bridge there that's painted right now. And we thought, oh, that could be neat, but I can't get anybody to respond. I can't get a hold of anyone. So we're kind of at a standstill. We welcome any opinions, ideas. We have teams of people involved and ready to go. The artist is ready to do, he's ready to paint again. It's just finding a place and, of course, funding with it. A neat thing that came out of this, next slide, please, is Hart also partnered with us. So they wrapped some buses during January and also at the bus stops themselves and stations. So this mural went way beyond just a mural. People picked up, it was all over town. It was really special. The survivors would have meetings outside of this mural. This became like a meeting spot for them. Next slide, please. And then in 2017, this project was awarded the Social Impact Award by the Tampa's Downtown Partnership. So it was welcomed by the community and everyone else, just not the owners of the new building. Next slide, please. And there we are. So Dottie, 2 survivors, and of course, Robin and I in the middle, myself, Natasha Nascimento. and Joanne, who's with the Free Network. Next slide, please. And then this just shows that it truly was a collaborative project, between the survivors, City of Tampa, the artists, TPD, the Free Network, and the Junior League of Tampa. That's all. Any questions or ideas, suggestions? I did also want to bring up, I didn't include this in the, but this is an email. So Natasha Nascimento, who's the founder of Redefining Refuge, this is actually her reply, her signature reply on her email is actually the mural. And it has a bunch of, different stats and whatnot on it. So it's still out there and people are using it in their own ways. This actually was part of a Girl Scout Gold Award that a Girl Scout used to actually teach people in the Hillsborough County school system. So it's kind of been everywhere. It's just we can't seem to resurrect a place.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on how the mural was used. A Girl Scout Gold Award she got permission to use the mural for her Girl Scout Gold Award. And it went all the way up to Tallahassee, where it still remains in the human trafficking toolkit for the school, the Department of Education. So the Girl Scouts turned it into a poster that was to go into all the middle and high schools across the state. A poster of what to do if you see something and what to do. It was like a peer-to-peer kind of poster using this mural. So the impact went statewide, even national, with other school districts that were using it in their schools. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ideas, let us know.
Thank you. Do you have contact information in case we know someone or there's a business an entity that has a building, like to have it painted? Who do we contact?
You would contact me, and then I would coordinate with Ms. Hubbard or Ms. Groover-Skipper.
Yeah.
Quick question, Jennifer Glaser, Redefining Refuge. Was your goal really to focus more on the downtown area? Was that your first choice, more than likely?
I mean, it's logical,
right?
I mean, but
I was also thinking somewhere around the stadium or where we have a lot of adult businesses.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. It's it's really finding the right place that this isn't going to happen again. Yeah.
And also, would you be interested in overpasses, roadways?
Mm-hmm.
I know that the Expressway Authority years ago at Willow had a mural they painted in there, and that might be a possibility as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. High trafficked area where it's going to be visible, of course. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't I do this, Mr. Chair? Following this meeting, not possibly today, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, I'll send out the contact information. But I'd like to, as Ms. Groover-Skipper is a member of this commission, and the Commission on the Status of Women is also a Hillsborough County Citizens Board. It would be nice to have that kind of cooperation, cross-cooperation, so that we're not working in silos. We have two groups working with human trafficking. If we could cycle things through me at the county, I can put all of these ideas that you might have, that Commissioner Santiago Corrado might have, or Detective Sergeant Durkin isn't here today, but he's with the airport. So, if any one of you have ideas, Hotel Motel Association might have places that, nearby, some of your members might have a location. It could all be filtered through me. And then, because technically speaking, Nicole and Dottie can't speak because of sunshine law outside of this meeting or outside of the Commission on the Status of Women. And the same goes for Ms. Rosa here. So I would be willing to be the filter through which communications take place.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Thank
for
you
the presentation. And Ms. Monteleone, why don't you go ahead and continue the staff report? Thank you.
Goodness. So we have a lot of things on the table, one of which, and if I can take them just a little out of order, is the schedule and the calendar. We can take that one first. It's the last page in your packet, so if you just flip it over to the back, you'll see the schedule. This varies just slightly from the previous one that you had seen last time. The months that are out of the ordinary are the ones highlighted in red. So that would be March, June, July, and December. The March meeting, the previous calendar had 2 dates that were possibilities. It has been narrowed down to March 28th, which is the regular 4th Thursday of the month. So that falls within the cycle. The June meeting would be the 3rd Thursday because the 4th Thursday of the month conflicted with the BOCC meeting free period. And we like to keep those weeks free from not just the commissioners, but staff who don't normally have an opportunity to take any time off, except for when the commission is in recess. The July 24th, we can adjust that as it comes closer to that date. There is the possibility of a conflict with a BOCC workshop. The way the workshop process happens with the Board of County Commissioners is not all workshop dates are actually used. There has to be a topic that is that the board is considering in order for that date to kick in and actually have a meeting. So we won't know until later on in the year whether or not that's a conflict. And then the December, obviously, same as this year, the 4th Thursday always falls in the winter holidays. So those are the anomalies that are highlighted. And if you could vote on accepting this calendar, that would be wonderful. And everybody today.
Do we have any comments or questions about the calendar? You notice that some of these dates, of course, are subcommittee dates, and then the committee meets at 1 o'clock and 2:30 on those dates as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the calendar for approval.
Okay. Do we have a second? All right. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? All right. Motion passes.
Okay. And Cave and I have been in communication. The process is that I do have to make public records requests through Tallahassee to obtain the minutes of the meetings, and they are not available any other way. So at the previous meeting, I had supplied everyone on the legislative and judicial copies of the minutes I was able to obtain for past meetings. I do not have the most recent ones yet because I just learned this week that I have to make that public records request to Tallahassee in order to get those minutes, but I will have them for January, fingers crossed.
I'm still surprised by that. I mean, imagine we can just make a public, just a normal request to get that without public records request.
The process, Captain Cave, you want to back me up here? I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on.
Yeah.
If you want to elaborate on the information you sent me earlier today.
That's absolutely the information I was given. I spoke with the Attorney General's office this morning just to confirm on the emails I'd been sending back and forth that is the only process to get them.
Okay.
Can I just make comment that, those meetings are public record and they're televised and they're out there. I don't understand why you have to go through the process of getting a public records request for those minutes. That just baffles me.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. However, I did get at least the direct contact, one of their attorneys who handles all these public records requests. So we have at least his direct contact information where we can email him directly. And then I would imagine after we do it a couple of times, it'll just become kind of a normal process for him to receive the email and forward it on.
Right, which means I have to email him every time a meeting occurs. Yeah, he's the gentleman I spoke to get the minutes from the last meetings.
Right. And I also inquired if there was any kind of distribution list that we could get on or have a recurring request, and I was told no. They have to be individual requests.
Okay. The alternate member update, there are just a few that we, primary members that I haven't gotten through the system yet, and that would be for Hotel and Motel Association. That would be for the religious institutions, the Tampa Airport, and the Plant City Police Department. I have received application from the Crisis Center for your alternate, Mayra, but I'm hoping that I can get that person's application on the December 20th Board of County Commissioners meeting. Not sure. I have to check what the submission date is through the board clerk, but I'll try and get that done. I think everyone else's alternates have been approved. If you sat at a seat that had your primary name tent and one of your alternates, then they've been approved. If it was just you, then they have not been approved. And that includes you, Chair Klug. I'll try and get your alternate on the December 20th agenda. So that leaves the Commission on Human Trafficking presentation for Human Trafficking Awareness Month that Commissioner Cameron Cepeda has graciously put in process. So that will be done on January 18th during the Board of County Commissioners meeting. I had mentioned that in the emails that I had sent out to all of the members. I will continue to mention it in any correspondence I have. As many of you can be in the audience that day would be a wonderful thing. Usually what happens is the commissioner will read the proclamation. She will be at a podium in front of the dais, not on the dais. And all of the members or all of the people who are being recognized stand behind the person presenting. So you'd all be standing behind Commissioner Cepeda, and she would then read the proclamation, and, maybe one or two of you who can say a few words. And that's how that process happens. I had been asked for the possibility of doing a press conference as well to further the activities of this commission and to highlight Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And I thought if we could do it all on the same day would be a beautiful thing, because people will already be at County Center for the delivery of the proclamation. The commissioner will have the opportunity to be there because she will be, as soon as the meeting ends, she will be available to participate in the press conference. And it's most easily done right out here in front of County Center or in the lobby, depending on the weather. So that would be great, but I would need help in pulling that off because while I am proficient at writing press releases, I no longer have an updated press list to send those press releases out to. And I know people think, well, it's already the middle, almost the middle of December. Generally speaking, I never sent press releases out previous to 2 weeks before the event, and then 2 days before the event, and then the day of the event, because the press isn't going to pay attention until it's hot news and they've got something to cover. Speaking of something to cover, it would be nice to have an announcement of some sort at the on January 18th, if that's the date we do the press conference. The next meeting of the commission is not until after that on the 25th. So I don't know if anyone has any ideas they want to throw out for what we could announce on January 18th. And Dottie, you said you'd help.
I'd be happy to help, Ms. Monteleone.
Mr. Chairman, couple things. If we were able to launch a campaign, that'd be great to announce, because it brings more attention to the campaign and the awareness process. I mean, that would be great if but the timing here is
Yeah.
tight, very tight.
Right.
And secondly, I know Ms. Monteleone, you probably work with the communications team here at the county that have, contact with the press, but we certainly we have a distribution list because we put out a lot of information to the
That would
press.
be
So if you
helpful.
need help from us, in addition to the county's communication team, we'd be glad to
That would be very helpful.
distribute for you, actually,
Right.
the information.
Because it would be the commissioner who would be engaging the communications team here at Hillsborough County, and that does pose some challenges. So if Visit Tampa Bay is available, that would be awesome.
Certainly, we.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And of course, Port Tampa Bay as well. We have a media relations group. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love having all these people around the table. I'm sorry. That is, let's see. There was a follow-up item from the last meeting about the 2014 Collaborative Labs Workshop. So that information was provided. Thank you, Ms. Groover-Skipper, for providing that to me. I also received it from our Assistant County Administrator, Carl Harness, who is also online here on Teams. They did provide the Collaborative Labs report. I did send it out to all of you electronically. I did not print it as part of your packages today because it's over 63 pages. So if you would like to review that report, I will warn you now that the links contained within the report, there's one mention of a spreadsheet and a link to the spreadsheet. It's no longer active. It doesn't work. Collaborative Labs, there's a time limit on how long you're going to leave things on your website. So those links have expired, but I think from looking through that report, it's it's comprehensive. So even without having those links, there's a lot of very useful information. And I think that might be something going forward you might want to bring up, discuss, or dive further into. I was also asked by a member if we could revisit the membership of the steering committee. It was difficult to get quorum at the last steering committee meeting, and I'm wondering if there are too many people that volunteered to be on the steering committee. So if you all want to look at, I'll send out the list again of members of who volunteered in case you didn't record it yourself. And you can contact me with whether or not you want to continue to serve on the steering committee. I'll put out the legislative and judicial membership as well if members want to review their volunteering for that committee. And we did receive an email from the Attorney General that free training is available. I'll be sending that and forwarding that out to all of you. I received it on the 5th, so it's not part of your package, but I will forward that information from the Attorney General's office on the free training. I think this training is more focused on the public safety. So it's more for, I think, the police departments. But I'll let all of you decide if you want to take the training or not. It is free. And that is all I have. Free training is always good. If anybody has any questions for me.
I did have one
Yes.
question. So we were talking about the educational portion and pushing that out. IHTI, we mentioned them being a partner from before. They said that they can create an updated training and provide a new proposal as how many licenses and how many, I guess there was the licenses that we went out to the last during human trafficking during the Super Bowl. So if we still want to do that, if that's the procurement process, if they have to go through that and put it up, but they're also same thing. We used them before. They're willing to be that educational piece if we want to do that again.
Okay. Yes, it would go through the procurement process. It's one of the goals that the steering committee discussed as reflected in the minutes of the meeting. So it was the marketing, the awareness campaign, and the education and training. So I would suppose that would be a follow-up conversation on the education and training piece, and similarly to what you were presented today by Mr. Hollingshead, we would do the same thing, ask the procurement department to deliver an outline of a scope of work for that training. We would look at the cost associated with the IAHTI contract, the last go round, and depending, you have $567,000, and I think Commissioner Karada had discussed this at one of the meetings. I think it was the last full board meeting, that a budget should be put in place so we know how much is going to be spent on the media campaign. We know how much is left after that, since it was approved today, to spend on any of the other goals that you might have, whether it's, and I'm just throwing this out there, not committing to anything, but the USF Bright project, if there's, additional funding you wanted to do there to follow up on the funding you did previously. If it's the, helping the Junior League and the Commission on the Status of Women with their mural project as part of the awareness campaign, they could work with FKQ, should FKQ be the recipient of the contract award through Visit Tampa Bay for their awareness campaign. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think we need a little more organization around the budgeting process. So if there are members who would like to, I don't want to ask the chair about establishing another subcommittee, but if the steering committee could take that up, that would be helpful.
Right. And so the steering committee consists of 14 members right now, and with the alternates, we should have a quorum next time when we meet. I guess it's not until February. It looks like the next meeting for the steering committee. So in the past, we had 7 of the 14. We didn't have 8 required for a quorum. I'm not sure if we need to reduce that number. I think with alternates, we should be able to have a quorum, et cetera. But that's what we need to address in the steering committee. I think it's the appropriate entity to do that. We talked about awareness and marketing, but and outreach, but also education. Those are things that we want to try to accomplish this year, and probably throughout the next couple of years as well. But we try to determine how much money we have left over from this initial procurement. We're going to be going through hopefully the next month or so, and then the money left over, we have some ability to do education and training and some other functions we want to try to accomplish. So that's something we're going to try to take up at the next steering committee meeting, which is in February, right? Yeah.
That is correct. Oh, and I did want to add one more thing. Typically, it was at this meeting that the leadership was elected. We had a full plate, so
January,
and it would be helpful, since now we have primary and alternate members. The leadership should come from the primary members. So not all of those primary members are here today. If you can all communicate back and let your primary member know that the elections for leadership will take place in January. And I was advised by the state attorney, I have not gotten the official letter yet. I don't know if you have received it, Mr. Chair, but State Attorney Lopez has indicated that she will be stepping away, and now alternate member, future primary member, Deputy State Attorney for the Special Crimes Unit, Special Victims Unit, thank you. She will be the primary member from the State Attorney's Office, and she will then have an alternate, just to be clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that takes care of the next item then. We were just referring to strategic planning process and goal setting and funding budget. So we'll We'll address that at the February meeting. January 25th meeting will be the election of officers, as we said. So we need those primary members there, and it will be in the 26th floor, not this floor.
We don't know that yet.
Okay.
The roof is being replaced on this building. It's a two-stage process. So we may or may not be on the 26th floor in January.
Okay.
To be determined.
Do we have any public comment?
We did not have any public comment requested. I'm not sure if anyone who has joined us virtually would want to speak, or if anyone in the room here would like to make any comments.
Okay. Also, any old business or new business?
Chair,
Yes.
I just want to go back on what Ms. Monteleone was talking about with the strategic planning through the collaborative lab. I think that was done in 2012. And I really would encourage everybody to look at that plan. I think, going through that whole process with representation of the entire community was so incredibly helpful to know how to plan, and we came up with a 1 year, 3 year, and a 5 year plan on human trafficking. So I would really encourage all of the commission members to look at that, what was done and how it was done. And the collaborative lab was an amazing process to go through. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Okay. Any other comments? If not, we're going to call the meeting to an end. Adjournment. Thank you. Thanks for all attending. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. And if anyone needs a parking voucher, let me know.